So getting into step one that we refer to as the sealer. So sealers are going to seal the space between dent in the wall and the core. They also are going to fill voids and irregularities in the root canal. Ideally, they're going to flow into lateral and accessory canals filling the entire root canal. It's going to act as a lubricant. It's going to adhere to smear layer free dentin. And we'll get into a few of the different systems or methods that we're going to be using for obturation. So regardless of whatever technique is needed, given the specific products, sealers are an essential component of this entire process. And then getting into step two in obturation, we're going to have 3 techniques that we're going to discuss with popular products nowadays in the industry. And we're going to cover lateral or vertical condensation, which is going to be geared towards our hygienic gutta percha points. We also are going to quickly cover a heated system, which you guys are going to be familiar with various products out there. And then our cold flowable or room temperature gutta flow too. With that, I'll have Keltine discuss lateral condensation and take it from there.
Thanks, Jason. Great job. As Pete reiterated this morning, and as Jason mentioned, you know, I think personally the most important part of root canal therapy is literally the irrigants in cleaning out that canal with the irrigants. As you saw in the radiograph, you can shape and clean with a file, but you can't get into those lateral isthmuses or canals unless you have a good irrigant that cleans that out. And then what you need to afterwards, and I kind of like the description the endodontist gave in the video that Meredith sent us, is root canal is kind of like a Twinkie, right? Your canals, you're trying to get out the filling in the middle. Well, now we're trying to put the filling back in the Twinkie, so to speak. So lateral condensation, you insert the gutta percha and basically pack it in laterally against each other using the main gutta percha point and accessory sizes, as you can see here in the diagram. Next slide, please. The gutta percha points, or as some people might call them in the industry, cones. You can see we have our hygienic gutta percha points. They're really high quality, radio-opaque, machine rolled cones made from gutta percha. Myra, my daughter, was like, "What is gutta percha?" I said, "Basically, little girl, it's just rubber." So bio rubber is what I called it to her, and she was like, "Okay, cool." They are laser calibrated, precise size and taper. They are available in the 3 specific specifications, as you can see: your ADA spec, your original, and then your AAE ISO spec as well, with the color coding. And then we offer the Spectra points and the greater taper gutta percha points in the 0406, and they are ISO matched with the colors of the file, as you all learned in training. Next slide, thank you. We currently, as you guys know, don't have heated systems, although we do run into them quite a bit out into the field. We listed just a couple of the top competitors that Jason and I see in our areas, and I'm sure you do as well. And as you know, heated gutta percha is delivered through a carrier and or is heated flowable gutta percha. So we have Dentsply's Gutta Core, and then this is Kerr's, it's too small for me to see on the screen.
It's Elements IC.
I see. Yeah, that's the newest one.
And I think so. It's like the combination of like the heat source with a backfill extruder. Yep. So this is going to be where it dispenses the gutta percha, this one, and then this is going to be where it's down packing.
Awesome. Thanks. Next slide, please. And then, as you guys know, we have our Gutta Flow 2. When I started a long time ago, it was just Gutta Flow. It's just cold flowable gutta percha, no heat, no shrinkage. the sealer and the gutta percha are combined in one and adheres to gutta percha and dentin. So when I explain this product, what I like to do is just take the cap off and show the two sides of the syringe to show that one side sealer, one side's gutta percha. It just mixes together, and then go into the features and benefits of the gutta flow. I think really the no heat, no shrinkage is a big factor because you want to get that nice tight seal, and it does expand 0.2%. So if you would like to go to the next slide, this is our sealer and master cone technique for the gutta flow 2. Any questions on that, on the technique? Nope. Okay. Next slide, please. It does give you a tight seal due to the expansion. As I mentioned, it does not shrink, and it does span slightly at 0.2%. Very good adhesion to gutta percha points and dentin walls. And the combination of the expansion plus adhesion gives you that excellent seal, so you're not getting bacteria in that canal later on down the road through the course of the life of the root canal. Again, just demonstrating how well it flows into those lateral isthmuses and the different canals. Basically, it's just three-dimensional obturation without condensation, so you don't have to pack it in. And then it does give you optimal results, proper canal preparation, apical seal, obturation method will lead to a successful procedure. So the biggest thing is you just want to really get that nice tight seal. And again, you cannot get that without proper irrigation, proper cleaning, basically all the steps that we've gone over up to this point in the presentations. And there are a couple references on the demo if you've forgotten how to demonstrate your gutta flow 2. And then the Endo 301 obturation sales presentation. And Jason and I were talking about little tips and tricks that we do, whether it be at a lunch and learn or demonstrating this product. And one thing that I do that has helped me with gutta flow 2 is I actually, when going into a lunch and learn, so since gutta flow 2 takes about a half an hour, 25 minutes, as you guys know, to set up, I'll dispense some on one of my business cards in the beginning, and then maybe go through a couple other products, knowing the fact that I'm going to come up to this one towards the end, and then the product will already be set up, so that way you can physically give it to the doctor or the assistants that are going to be using it, so they can feel what the finalized product feels like. So, any questions? We don't have any funny videos, anything like that. You know, I could start drinking beer, and you know, I could videotape that. Pete's seen that. And that's kind of funny, but my kids are home, so out here in a second. So.
Well, hey, excellent job, you guys. Thank you very much for putting that together. I have a couple questions and comments. First of all, and either one of you can answer this, what's sort of your talk track for explaining how to place gutta flow? I mean, you went through that slide, and Kuda, do you mind rolling back to that one? I meant to kind of ask about that, but Kelt maybe, or Kuda, whichever one of you wants to just kind of take us through how you tell a dentist the proper procedure for using this product.
Sure. I can take that, and then if Jason wants to interject, please feel free. Basically, I explained it to him as a single cone technique, where the master cone essentially is going to take up probably, I would say 85 to 90, I would even venture 90 to 95% of that canal space. Really what you're using this to do is to since it has the sealer to seal it off down towards the bottom of the apex. But then this product's going to flow into those lateral canals and those isthmuses, more so to where a majority of the canal space is still taken up by your standard gutta-percha point. And then I will show them, I'll flip over to the instruction card like we're seeing here, and just go through, you just put a little bit on a mixing pad, roll your gutta-percha point in it like you were going to deliver sealer anyways, down to the bottom of the apex, or you can use your file if you so choose. I rarely say lentinal spiral. I just know that they already have a gutta-percha point and they're probably using a file, or they had to use a file, so I give them those two options. And then I say, come back and just recoat liberally that master cone, and then place it to where you get that nice little tug back, and then sear it off and let it set for about a half an hour, 25 minutes.
Okay.
And then get into the expansion. There's no heat other than searing off the top of the gutta-percha point.
Okay. Kuda, any additional thoughts or?
I do the same thing. I like the literature and with how they show each step, so I can kind of walk the dentist through that. Like Kelting too, I mainly just tell them to use the gutta-percha point, and then give them the option if they want to use their hand file. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Then I'll go into like the expansion properties, reiterate that it won't shrink on you, and then yeah, go into a couple more features and benefits.
Okay. All right, good. I'll tell you, I guess, I was around when we launched the original, like Kelt was saying, and that was only available in the capsules. And I did some research on that. Apparently, we're discontinuing the capsules as well. So, so that's something that you used to have to, in order to get GuttaFlow 1 to work, it was only available in those capsules that you had to triturate. Then you put a tip on, and then you express the material in the canal, then you place your cone. But, whenever I'm explaining GuttaFlow now, I always recommend the syringe. Obviously, moving forward, that's all we'll be able to recommend. But I always throw it back to the dentist when just find out how they're placing their sealer. And I would say, 80% of the time that I get the dentist will say that currently I have a sealer that I just use a file and I just reverse my sealer in the canal. All I say is you do the same exact thing with this. And just keep their technique as simplified as possible by just, do exactly what you're currently doing. You use a file to place your sealer. Well, guess what? This is your sealer. You're doing the exact same thing. Celts, I love the idea of putting it on a business card at a lunch and learn. This is a demonstrable product. You've got to get it in the hands of the dentist because the viscosity is ideal. They look at how the thixotropic properties of this. It's thin enough that it's going to get into the isthmuses. It's thixotropic enough that it's not going to extrude out the apex. A couple other things. It's 30 micron gutta-percha particleized powder. It's a polydimethyl siloxane. Siloxane material is extremely biocompatible. One kind of issue that I maybe try and turn into a positive is the fact that siloxanes are not resorbable by the body. So if you get a puff at the apex, like so many dentists and endodontists like to do, that puff will be resorbed by the body in a couple, 6 months, right? With GuttaFlow, that it's like putting impression material in the apex. It's not going to harm the tissue. It's essentially just going to end up being a permanent puff at the apical end that will show up on every x-ray from now until that tooth is extracted or the patient dies. So that's something that I I always like doing full disclosure and just letting everybody know that, right? So sealers that are resorbed by the body, they actually have, at some point, there's only going to be sealer left at that apical constriction. So, maybe there's a chance to continue to break down that sealer at the apical constriction and allow fluid back up into the canal. But with gut flow, because it's a siloxane, you're going to get like a permanent cap on that apical end. So I think those are all really good things to mention when you're talking about gut flow too. But yeah, simplifying or not adding a new technique or a new procedure. Just stay with what you're currently doing with your sealer. I mean, that's all that we're doing. We're just replacing their sealer and giving them a single cone technique. We're just simplifying the process. Last thing, and maybe this will come up during posts, but if you get the question about gut flow, what if I want to place the post the same day? Do I have to wait 25 minutes? Kels, how do you typically handle that one?
I mean, the instructions say you do. You can heat it up a little bit, and that actually could accelerate the setting. But I try and turn it into, sure, it's 25 minutes, but you can check a couple other patients. I ask them if they're placing posts the same day when I'm talking about gut flow too, if they are. That to me is the only downside, if there is one, to this product, because we are such a instant gratification society, if not an industry. So I kind of deflect to, they could be, they do have to sit there. So, they're going to be doing a hygiene check or something else, and then they come back and place the post.
Yeah. So I'm glad this came up.
But, they do have to sit there for a little bit.
So good. According to the IFUs, right? Sort of off that, Dr. Ricardo Casado would never wait for that full setup time. He would take a heated instrument and scale down that canal a few millimeters at a time. The second you touch a heated instrument to gut flow, it's going to condense, harden into a ball, and you'll be able to remove it just like you're removing, gutta percha. So if you want to place a post, you don't want to wait around, you can use the heated instrument and scale down in that canal until you get your 3 to 5 millimeters of dense gutta percha at the apical third, and then you can start to prep your post space. I love gutta flow too. I think it has so many incredibly good properties, and I think that the more we get into all the different endo products that we've got, there's a need for these products in so many offices, and I think that I love it. I'm passionate about it. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? Great job, you guys.
Pete, let's expand on what you just explained to make sure that we all understand correctly, because I think that that's a good way to combat the disadvantage of the set time. But, when you take a heated instrument down the canal, gutta percha that's there is going to stick to it, right? So can you kind of walk us through that a little bit more?
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm looking for a video that Casado did for us.
Okay, maybe we watch that.
Yeah. Let me see if it's in here. Oh, geez. 2012.
Didn't Casado do the ones with the old Gutter Flow original where you backfill the canal, and that's why he can snap set it? How are you going to backfill a canal when you have a master point? Or how are you going to snap set it when you have a master point is what I mean.
So the same way you sear off the cone that's in there, that's gonna anytime you touch heat to that, that gutter flow or that cone will you'll be able to remove that, and then the gutter flow itself will go from a liquid state to a hardened state. It'll feel like gutta percha, and it'll just kind of make these little balls of gutta percha, and everywhere you touch that heat to gutta flow and the gutta percha cone, it's like you are just creating that coronal seal further down in the canal. So right now you sear off the gutta flow at the top. So that final image there you see, number 5, you're removing the cone, and they used to show the literature where there was like a little bit of a darker pink thin line, and that was representative of a hardened sealer gutta percha sort of state. That'll eventually all turn into a solid material, like if you waited 25 minutes. But once you touch heat to that, it's gonna condense the whole way. Loops, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
I'd like to see the video.
I appreciate your honesty.
I still don't get it. You're still down into the canal with a single cone, so you got to go down and I don't know, sear the cone. I don't know. I'd like to see what you're talking about. So I get it with the Gutta Flow 1, where it's a liquid form in the canal, and you're just hitting it with a heat instrument, and it snap sets into a solid. But this is already a solid with a little bit of liquid on the outside of it. I don't understand how that's working.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like
one
to
of
see
the
the
things
video.
that I say if they ask that question is good point, doctor. But we actually discontinued the fast set gutta flow because we just found that that's just not what's happening in the industry. And I kind of almost turn it around on them, like, oh crap, am I doing the right thing? I should probably let the patient be temporized and go home first. And then sort of just ends the conversation. I don't know if it's the best way, but I don't have anything else to say to that. I think, Pete, you hit a couple of great points about Gutta Flow. You're passionate about it. I think Gutta Flow 2 is one of the top 5, if not 3 products that I talk about that I feel is a great product. It's inexpensive. It adds to getting the entire endo wheel in an office. My famous line is that it's like you said, it's not changing anything that they already know. They already learned lateral condensation in school. I always say, docs jumped on board to heated systems because of convenience. However, they're expensive. A lot of times there's little things that the tips are melted and you have to grab another thermofill or whatever the case may be. And then at the end of the day, heated systems shrink when they set. Ours is quite the opposite. So it just makes everything easier. It's a better seal. I think the main thing to drive home is that it's not any different, right? Because doctors, they don't want by the end of the presentation of new files and all this that we're also going to change your obturation system. No, they already know this. It's flowable gutta percha and the sealer all in one. I'm going to give you a master cone that's going to be matched to the last file size, and it's going to seal better because of the expansion properties.
Boom.
Great job, you guys.
Yeah. I think that's spot on, Meredith, and you're hitting on all the key points there. And I think just because I work so closely with Casado on this, again, I just feel like this is part of it. So can everybody see this video here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's not really going to show that, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. So this is one of the capsules or cannules that we used to offer gutta flow in. He would express a small amount to seal the apical end, and then he would coat gutta percha with this. I always recommend placing it on a mixing pad and roll the gutta percha in it. But then you seat it, and when you seat that gutta percha cone, for, let's say, if you do it, you place the sealer with a file, and then you coat the cone. Whenever I coat the cone on a mixing pad, and the customer is using gutta core, I say, doesn't this look like your gutta core obturator? Yeah, it does, except this is not a heated system. So with gutta core or thermofill, if you don't get that temperature exactly right, you're going to get one of three things is going to happen. So you put it in the oven, it pops up, you take it out, and it's too hot. Now that gutta core acts like a spaghetti noodle, and you can't get it in the canal, and you ruin that, and there goes $12. If it's not warm enough, it pops up, and it's just not warm enough, or maybe you took too long to bring it from the heater on the counter over to the canal, and it's just not hot enough, so it's not going to sort of work its way to the working length, the apical end. You're going to come up short because it's too solid at that point. It's not hot enough. So now you got to yank that out, and there goes another $12. So if you finally get that temperature exactly right, you don't waste time moving it from the heater over to the tooth, then you can see gutta core or thermofill. But then again, if you have any curvature, all that heated gutta percha is it runs up the side of that curve on the canal, and you're left with either a metal carrier if they're using the old thermofill carriers, plastic carrier, or the new gutta core. So anyway, I digress. Back to this product. This is cold flowable, so you're not going to run into those problems with the heater. Again, Casado used to backfill next to the canal, but now with our master cone fitting the exact same size as your last file, there'll be, there's no way you can backfill. I mean, maybe at the coronal portion you would be able to, but if need be, you can add accessory cones to get a more a better 3D fill. So now he's saying the cone is seared at the orifice with touch and heat or heated glick number 1. So loops, here you can see as he's using this heated instrument and he's sort of touching it to the gutta percha, you're creating, kind of this smoky gutta percha mess, but it's just heat is kind of attacking that rubber in the gutta percha, and it's just burning it away. And it's also immediately turning that gutta flow into a solid. And again, you see that ball of gutta flow right there? That's exactly what you're going to get as you continue to scale down in the canal with the gutta flow. So you see how deep in the canal he is with that? If you continue to scale down incrementally with the heated instrument, you'll be able to remove that excess gutta percha and gutta flow until you're left with that, 3 to 5 millimeters at the apical third. Any other questions? Or Luce, did that clear it up?
There's mud. No, I understand what he did.
Okay. So I think probably the safe answer is wait. But if they really want to place it the same day, they can use a heated instrument to remove the gutta percha so they have that 3 to 5 millimeters at the apical third, and then prep for the post space.
Hey, can you send this out?
Yeah, this is on YouTube, and I'll share the link with everybody. Again, this is for Gutta Flow 1. It's from 2010.
Yep.
It's crazy, that's 2 years old. So, yeah, I will send that out to everybody. You're welcome. Any other questions or comments?
I can only add that if you do ask a doctor, how often do you immediately place a post with your endodontic treatment? Today, more than ever, you're going to find it less and less and less, because typically there's a lot of coronal tooth structure and they're not doing a post and core crown.
I would agree with the increase in minimally invasive endo and better instruments that can sort of go after curvature without, having to blow out the coronal and make a huge orifice opening. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There's less and less of that going on. Great point. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Kuda, Kelt, fantastic job. Thank you guys for putting all the time in. Thanks everybody else for your time. And tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern, we'll wrap up our Endo 101 training, and then have finish up with a conference call. Maybe we'll give old Crawdaddy a call, surprise him. So I heard somebody else, maybe there's one other comment.